station on this lovely Friday afternoon. Hopefully you're enjoying where you are. I understand my friend Jason nearly caught a foul ball at Yankee Stadium, so, hopefully he'll get one. But let's finish the show, shall we? The first good. How about the Tulsa Shock? I know not many people watch the WNBA, but hey, this team had lost 19 straight games. And then I started talking about them, and they won they won two of their last three. They beat Connecticut, and they beat the LA Sparks. So a big shout out to them for getting it done finally, and hopefully they'll keep it going. The U.S. Open tennis is underway. And I know a lot of people are criticizing America tennis right now, saying that basically without the Williams sisters, there wouldn't be much to watch. But, there's been some good wins these last few days by some of these young American players. And Andy Roddick plays tonight. Donald Young today beating Mr. Wawrinka. Donald Young's had a very, very, very tough year because I guess a lot of people are upset with him because he's upset with the United States Tennis Association for not developing him better. But, who knows? Maybe, win a few more rounds, make a name for yourself, and you know what? Maybe that'll spur him on to bigger and better things. And I watched yesterday this young lady, Stevenson, an LA girl actually, who, has made it to the third round of the U.S. Open, and if she wins her next match and Serena wins her next match, they will play against each other, which would be very cool to have two LA girls go at it at the U.S. Open. But it's all about right now on the men's side. We all know the big four, although Mr. Murray's in a struggle right now against Tommy Haas. In fact, the match should be over by now. And on the women's side, upsets keep happening. Sharapova lost today. Serena right now is going to have to play the number 4 seed Azarenka this weekend, which should be a tough match. But if she gets it done, she got pretty clear sailing until the semifinals because she can overpower Schiavone and anyone else in her wake. College football kicked off last night as the University of Wisconsin and Mississippi State, the two ranked teams that played last night, showed the country that they got some players. Wisconsin this year is debuting a brand new quarterback, Mr. Wilson, who played at NC State last season. And I tell you something, he was very impressive last night. He's got a sick arm because he was a baseball player. And what the running game Wisconsin has and that offensive line that Wisconsin has, don't be surprised, folks, if Wisconsin could be playing for a national championship. I mean, yes, they have a tough schedule. They got to play Nebraska and they got to play Ohio State. And this year, the Big 10, or now it's called it will be called the Big 12 eventually. They have a championship game. Don't be surprised, folks, if Wisconsin is playing for a BCS championship. And Mississippi State, got off to a slow start, but once they realized they had the better athletes against Memphis, it was all she wrote. 52-14 says it all. But this weekend, there's some major games in college football with the Georgia Bulldogs taking on Boise State. And, of course, the big one, Oregon taking on, LSU. LSU's got some suspensions issues that they're dealing with, but Jarrett Lee is not a bad replacement. Although Mr. Shepard being suspended for what he's been suspended for, which is a bit ridiculous. And I'll talk about that in 1 second in the ugly. But Oregon has got everybody back offensively. It's going to be a very wild game. The fact it's being played in Dallas, Texas Stadium is perfect for it. I think Oregon will beat LSU, and this will catapult them towards their goal, which is to finish what they started last year, which was to win the national championship. I also think this college football season is going to be filled with a lot of intrigue because there's a lot of very, very interesting games. I think that if you look at, later on this season, we got, Oklahoma playing Florida State down in Tallahassee. That should be a very exciting game. I mean, there's some big, big, big time games coming up this year that's going to have national championship implications coming up over these next few weeks. But we'll talk about them as those games approach. Some of the bad this week. Some of the bad this week has been kind of sad. Unfortunately, right now, the NHL is not being talked about because of hockey. It's being more talked about the fact that 3 of its defense players the players, quote unquote, known as goons, have either died or committed suicide this off season, and they're now trying to look into, you know, what how that correlates to anything to do with hockey. But the only thing people talk about with hockey right now is the fact that some of their players, unfortunately, are taking their own lives. It has been a terrible year, folks, for people dealing with personal issues in professional sports. Whether it's Mike Flanagan as a broadcaster taking his life, a few weeks ago, whether it's Hideki Irabu, whether it's that referee, the former NBA referee doing the same thing. Life is tough, and unfortunately, we're losing way too many people because maybe they're not talking to somebody to help them get through things. But we send our condolences out to the gentleman and his family up in Toronto who just passed just the other day. The suspensions at Miami, folks, is ridiculous, but these players are being suspended for the first game against Maryland, including Ja'Cory Harris, which means he'll be able to play as the season progresses. They suspended a few other guys for 5 games and 6 games. Right now, people think that that's enough, but it's not going to be enough. The NCAA is going to drop the bomb on Miami when everything is said and done. This is the appetizer. These kids, what they did are minor. They're just going to punish this program because they're just going to say, you have no institutional control whatsoever to have over 92 players involved over the past 7 years. And so, unfortunately, this is only just the beginning there. Miami should be fine to get through Maryland, but they need them for 2 weeks from now when they play Ohio State. I mean, Miami's schedule to start the season is crazy. I mean, they start out with Maryland, then they got Ohio State, then they got to play Kansas State and Colorado, then North Carolina, then Florida State. No cupcakes there, folks. No cupcakes at all. And speaking of college football, once again, I saw the other day that ESPN had put up like these coaches who are on the serious hot seat, and they keep talking about Rick Neuheisel to coach at UCLA. In my opinion, UCLA should be as good as USC every single solitary year. And they just, they lack the one thing that USC seems to get, and that is the quality quarterback. Now, this season, they had both the quarterbacks who played for them a lot last year coming back. And maybe this season UCLA will make some noise. They have an amazing defense. Every year UCLA comes up with a D lineman or a linebacker or some defensive back who would start and star anywhere in this country. But this season for UCLA, it's the quarterback. And Rick Neuheisel has a reputation of grooming quarterbacks. He has a reputation of being able to coach good offense. Well, this is his year to get it done, or he might be gone. And USC fans, don't panic. We all know USC cannot qualify to win their conference championship or play for a BCS game. This is the last year of this whole fiasco that they've been involved in. But the bottom line is, Matt Barkley is still there. And this team has got a lot of offensive weapons. Mr. Tyler will be suspended for the first game, but this team will still be competitive. This team will still beat a lot of people. And personally, I think this is the calm before the storm. USC will storm back next season and be back to where they were before all this chaos reigned at their campus. We also saw this week some NBA players playing in some games around the country, trying to keep basketball in people's forefront. And it's good that Kevin Durant is essentially trying to be a one-man circus playing in cities and states all over the country, electrifying fans with his dazzling array of dunks and jump shots and just lighting up anybody who goes near him. What is the NBA going to do, or what is the United States going to do when it comes to Olympic qualifying and we don't have any NBA players to qualify because they're on strike? Right now, the European Championships are going on, and the European teams are trying to qualify for the Olympics, and none of our players, we're sitting at home watching all this stuff. Very, very strange what's going to happen with the NBA, folks. Very, very strange. And speaking of very strange, three quick ones. First, the Roger Clemens case. Roger Clemens is going to court, even though the prosecutor made the mistake, even though the judge told the prosecutor, don't you do this, or you're not going to get, I'm going to dismiss this thing. He is still, for some reason, a judge just ruled recently that Roger Clemens must face, what he did wrong. And in a way, it's extremely unfair that he didn't make the mistake, the prosecution made the mistake, but Roger Clemens is the one who's going to pay the price for the errors made by these other people. That's our American justice system, folks. And folks, don't think Barry Bonds is not going to go to jail. I keep hearing all these people keep saying how, they're just going to give Barry Bonds community service or suspend him, or not suspend him, but give him, he's not going to get a tough sentence. They sent Marion Jones to jail for lying. They've sent Greg Anderson to jail for lying. They sent Tim Montgomery to jail for lying. The federal government is not going to play around. And they've been embarrassed by this case because for 11 years they've been trying to go after this guy. And when they finally get a chance to get this guy, they don't get the result that they want. And so he could face 15 to 21 months in jail for misleading prosecutors in this investigation. And it's, it's sad, but hey, these guys are upset about this. They want somebody to pay for this steroid era. And Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are going to pay for it. I mean, the simple fact that Roger Clemens didn't do anything to sort of, he didn't make any errors in this matter. The prosecution made the errors, and the court is making him still go to trial, even though they dismissed this matter. Lets you know that they're not playing around. They do not want to be humiliated, and they feel like they have been. And this third quick story. You know why this guy in LSU, Shepard, isn't playing? He's not playing for the same reason this guy at Georgia Tech wasn't allowed to play. They were being suspended for college basketball this season. That's because somebody prepped him in his questioning answering service or question answer session with the NCAA. Now, I don't know how much you guys all know about press conferences, but usually at a press conference, the coaches, the president, gets the questions usually beforehand or kind of has an idea where the questions are going beforehand, and no one seems to care. But in college football or college athletics, if someone preps you, you're suspended. What will we think of next, folks? What will we think of next? So I want to thank you for listening to my show this week. I wish you all a happy Labor Day weekend. Safe weekend. Safe driving around this lovely country. Be well. My daughter Miracle, I love you more and more every day. And we'll see you soon. Peace.